Here we are, folks, at our channel once again. A channel that discusses practical spirituality and the ways that we can live in joyful ways during the most scary times. It's always good to be with you. Today we're going to start reading a book. It's a book full of short stories, and it is by Om Prakash Gilmore, me. We're going to just take one story out. We'll probably be doing it for many videos, so I invite you to just sit back, relax, and listen to the story. You might find it very interesting. And if you find it interesting, or even if you don't, please share it with others, please subscribe, and please hit the bell. Every little thing that you do can help us to stay on this channel and to share our thoughts and ideas with other people all over the world. You can also learn more about us at our website at www.nextstepcoaching.mysite.com. You can find all of that information down below. And so we begin with the story. Earth Generation, The Ones They Left Behind, Dr. Om Prakash Gilmore. The Only Response, Chapter 1. Another dark day. There seemed to be more clouds than there used to be, or maybe they are gathering around this small town a little more than they used to. The air quality has improved. People can move around more easily. The earth is slowly recovering since the disaster. That is the name everyone has given it, and the only name everyone seems to be able to agree on. It was a disaster. Scientists, engineers, all the high-tech know-it-all came together wanting to create a small artificial sun. A sun in a bottle, as they called it. Most of it was done in secret. When people learned about it, they were outraged, warning about the danger of that thing and what would happen if it got out of control. The only response was that we would have enough energy for the whole world without fossil fuels. And oh yeah, China was doing it first, so we had to do it. The great race was on. No one could stop it. Someone finished first. I don't remember who. It really wasn't important because when the thing ignited, it became a real sun. A small sun, yes, but a real one that burned its way out of the little bottle they had created and began to expand, consuming much of the atmosphere. This went on for years. The quick response by most countries was to evacuate. They began to build as many ships as possible and send people out into space to expand the small colonies that we had on various planets. For once the whole world was working together in an attempt to escape its stupidity, as the atmosphere just seemed to be evaporating into this thing that was growing bigger and bigger. It was estimated that in 1 year life would no longer be possible on Earth. People were sent off to several colonies, and then the unspeakable. The thing just exploded for some reason, leveling buildings, destroying oceans, burning down forests, and causing earthquakes all over the world that took us into decades of darkness. Many animals died, people died. Those who were lucky lived long enough to receive the breathing apparatus that was quickly distributed, that which was to be used on the colonies, and we began to rebuild right here. They began to. I wasn't born yet. In any event, they decided that they might as well stay here and live in domes and carry oxygen whenever they stepped outside of them, as they did on the moon or Mars or wherever they were sent. The power brokers felt that it would save them money too. So why not? That was the earth I was born on. It was a little better when I was born. Things had recovered quickly in only about 100 years or so, about 100 years, there was a modest atmosphere. People's bodies got used to breathing thinner air as they began to produce more red blood cells. Some of the animals came back, not many. The plants began to grow and thrive more than the humans. The few humans left began to create smaller, more sustainable cities and towns and rely heavily on AI. This, of course, soon became the construction of more artificial life forms to do the work necessary outdoors and work in hazardous spaces since they didn't need oxygen. This worked well. The world was at peace. We all received our little universal basic income. It was enough to survive off of, but the ALFs, that's artificial life forms, soon outnumbered the people, leaving us with nothing to do. What meaning can a life have when you just sit around? People just hooked into virtual reality machines from morning to night. Many became addicted. This, of course, created a larger need for ALFs until they gradually outnumbered us. Soon the establishment realized that these people were hooked. Virtual reality had become their drug. They became illegal for those with the inclination for addiction. People began to have their VR access denied. This led to withdrawal symptoms, leading to unrest and violence in some cases. Soon, there were arrests with prisoners given the option of going off planet to one of the established colonies or going off with a group to start their own colonies where they could establish their own laws. If not, they would have to either sit in their small cubicles finding things to do until they were released or do community service for several years while being banned from VR. People like to work. They all have dreams and desires to be creative. Some just could not channel that creativity, got hooked on UEI, and began to drift downhill until they couldn't stand it anymore and went off-world. They weren't missed. The ALFs were around for all of the labor necessary. The only jobs were off-world. The others, people like me, just had hobbies or were good at finding creative things to do. Everyone wasn't like that. I was lucky, I guess. Before the big increase in ALFs, I was a collector. I invested in precious metals. I don't mean that I heard of them or bought stock in them and had certificates. I actually acquired a lot of gold in very old coins and had it stacked up in a large safety deposit box at the bank. My father had told me that the secret was in gold and silver as I grew up. He said, buy something that was tangible. Don't depend on money because one day the market will crash. He was also wary about the cryptocurrency, which people began to purchase more and more of as time went on. I collected gold, silver, and we even found some platinum, several small bars about the size of my finger. People were always willing to sell because we were going to crypto. So such things, to back up the money supply, were not that important. For some reason, as more ALFs began to be produced, those precious metals became more valuable and necessary in their construction. The worth of it shot up. I was encouraged, I dare say forced, to trade all of my metals for cryptocurrency as it was made illegal for private citizens to possess the metals that were necessary for the, quote, protection of the nation and humankind, unquote, as they put it. I got a shitload of money, more than anyone could possibly spend, but I didn't really have anything to spend it on. If you have free energy and you live in a little pod no bigger than a tent, a small tent, what do you need money for, really? I was getting the UBI. I could have lived off of that. Yet again, I was alone. I didn't have a family. At 25, I was alone, single, and self-sufficient. The population was so small, having a family didn't seem important anymore. People were always moving, going off planet, but never coming back, which was strange. AI was running everything, most things anyway. There was a small group of elites somewhere in the background with a ridiculous amount of money, from what I understand, who were the ones really in control. They had the total allegiance of the ALFs and a very small populations of humans that seemed to be satisfied with their lives. So things seemed peaceful. The troublemakers were sent off world to the colonies or made into community servants. The ALFs were, without question. This seemed a great society for many. For me, it was only interesting. I spent most of my time in my little pod near a small school with a large playground near. I would walk into the park every so often and just sit thinking. I had a large garden back there where I often grew things. I liked my vegetables fresh. No one would mess with them. Why would they? I must admit that this world seems a bit strange. Just think of walking down the street not knowing if and when you were speaking with human beings. The ALFs were so human-like that you couldn't tell the difference. Some wore red bands on their upper arms to let you know that they were not human, while others didn't. And some of the humans, the dim-witted ones, wore them as a joke or something. There were very few humans left on the planet. The ones in charge, who called themselves the Essentials, would float in and out. You never knew who they were. Yet again you did. They seemed a little weird, like children let loose in a candy store. They would slum with the rest of us sometimes or do ridiculous things, knowing that the ALFs would not hold them accountable to the law. They were essentially in total control of millions, yes, millions of ALFs on the planet. They could get away with anything. So it was good not to get on their bad side. In fact, it was good, even better, not to get on their radars. I read a lot. I wrote a lot. I worked in my garden and went fishing. I even tried my hand at learning a few languages and trying to play the guitar. I had a few friends, but some of them planned to go off into space. When I say there were very few humans, I mean very few. Put it this way, in a city, and cities were much smaller than in the days of old, you might have just 50,000 people. And those were the major cities. You would have about 5,000 humans there, and the amount was constantly shrinking. I was in a small city of only about 10,000, so there were only about 1,000 humans, and this city was rural. It was spread out over a large geographic area. That's how cities were now created. I would say it was about a 50-mile city. Think of 1,000 humans spread out over 50 miles. That was my life. People were few and in between. The city seemed empty. The ALFs made them a little fuller, but even counting down, the population on this world was minuscule. The plants were thriving though. Some of the animals were reintroduced, the ones that could bear the air quality, but the world was much different from the one that my grandfather told me about. I couldn't even imagine a city with millions of people. That must have been horrible. I had a nice routine. Life was treating me well. I was not going to go to a colony, but my friends were slowly slipping out, leaving me with only ALFs. I was surrounded by them, so I figured I might as well start talking with them and getting to know them, even if they were definitely not human. And that is the end of the first chapter. folks. We will be recording the next chapter very soon and putting it up on our channel. Remember to hit the like sign, hit the bell, leave a comment, and pass this on to other people who might be interested in the things that we are doing, talking about practical spirituality, current events, and the many things that affect us and how we can live in a world that seems to be turning upside down now. You can find more information about us down below in the comments. Visit our websites. Perhaps you can make a donation and you can receive a copy of our new book, The Gathering of the Chosen. It's always good to be with you, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Namaste, everyone.